Welcome to Spartan Stadium, folks, for today's boys lacrosse contest, the Central Square Redhawks versus your ESM Spartans. Central Square is 1-1 on the season and coming off a 12-5 loss to Casanova. The Spartans are 0-2 on the season, and they are coming off a 12-9 loss against West Genesee. Coming up, face-off. In goal for the Spartans today is number 16, Luke James, and for Central Square, number 18, Kyle Wiskowitz. At the face-off X for the Spartans is Evan DeBurgess, and at the face-off X for the Redhawks, it is Matthew Davis. Face-off violation on the Spartans. Central Square gets possession to start the game off today. So Davis will start at around the 50-yard line. Davis is driving in the middle of the field. His shot blocked. Ball rolled out is rolling. It's going to be out of bounds. Ball stays with the Redhawks. Jeffrey Myers. Jeffrey Myers takes it behind the cage, trying to get around Nielsen. Gets around Nielsen, drives, finds Davis. Ball still on the ground, recovered by James, and this puts the Spartans in transition. DeBurgess at the 40, clears the ball cleanly for the Spartans. He gets it up to Jones at around the 30-yard line. Jones driving around his defender, finds Palem in the middle of the shot, and he scores. Jackson Palem scores. Puts the Spartans up 1-0 with 10:54 remaining here in the first quarter. DeBurgess and Davis goes back to the face-off X. DeBurgess wins his first face-off of the day, trying to get around Davis. Looks for a shot, flips it over to Caruana, bad pass. Welch tracks it down and keeps it from going out of bounds. Welch jumps it off to Caruana. Goes to Welch behind the cage. Jones behind the cage. Jones trying to get around his defender. Settles down. Goes up to Eric Marker at around the 35-yard line. Caruana has it. He'll go back to behind Welch, who goes back to Jones. Jones finds Marker at around the 25. Finding DeBurgess at around the 40-yard line. DeBurgess will attack from the 40, trying to get around his man. Shot wide, and Jones is behind the cage and recovers it for the Spartans. Driving on his man, dumps off pass into the middle to Logan Welch, and that's good. And just like that, the Spartans go up 2-1, 2-0 on Central Square. Goal scored by Logan Welch, assisted by number 3, Trey Jones. Caleb Tedesco at the face-off X for the Spartans. Face-off ball still on the ground. Recovered by the Spartans. Abreu gets it around the 30-yard line and dumps it off to Jones. Jones will go behind the cage to Welch. Welch around the end zone, looking for a man not found. He goes back to Jones behind the cage. Jones feeds it up to Abreu. Goes to Palem at the 40. Palem looking for some offense here. Settles it down, dumps it off to Tedesco at around the 25-yard line. Finds Welch behind the cage. Welch goes to Jones. Jones finds Abreu at around the 20. Palem recovers it around the 45-yard line. start driving it around the 40. Trying to get around his defender, can't. He'll back off. He'll dump it off to Abreu. Tedesco trying to drive on his man. Can't, backs off. Dumps it off to Abreu around the 30. Goes back to Abreu at the 30. Abreu drives, shot, bounced off the ground. Recovered by Jones behind the cage. Jones trying to get around his defender, can't. Palem, shot, good! A rocket of a shot by Jackson Palem. He gets his second of the day, and the Spartans go up 3-0. DeBurgess back at the face-off X for the Spartans. Wins another face-off. So control the possession. Dumps it off to Trey Jones at around the 30-yard line. Jones dumps it off to Welch behind the cage. Welch goes back to intended pass for Caruana. That's off the stick of Caruana. It's in a turnover by the Spartans. So Central Square gets their second possession of the day. So Davis will take it out on the out of bounds. Actually, no. It will be number 33, Elijah Post. So he gets it past the 50. Post looks for something, driving on Caruana. Caruana with great defense. Post gets backed off by ESM defenders. Dumps it off to number 23, Wolf. Wolf goes to Lucas at around the 20. It'll be Myers with it at around the 20-yard line. Myers trying to drive on two defenders. Can't. Backs one down. Goes behind the cage. Finds Wolf. Wolf goes back. He went back to Lucas. Lucas's shot is way too high, and it's going to be a Central Square possession. Taken behind the cage by number 6, Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy back down by Henry Callahan. Shaughnessy gets around to Callahan, dumps it off to the middle. Ball loose. And it looks like the Central Square will go on the man up, so the goal does not count. But a new defensive line change on the man up for the Spartans. 5:58 remaining here in the first quarter here at Spartan Stadium. ESM leads Central Square 3-0. So Shaughnessy will take it behind the cage. Davis has it around the 35-yard line, dumps it off to Johnson. Johnson goes to Shaughnessy, and it's going to be a turnover by the Redhawks. So James will take it behind the will take it. Will be defended by Shaughnessy. He'll look for Nielsen. He looks for Nielsen, connects to Nielsen at around the 15-yard line. Nielsen dumps it off to DeBurgess. DeBurgess makes a few moves. Jukes one defender. Actually, it's actually number 8, Zach Johnson. Actually, it was DeBurgess, and DeBurgess' shot is good. And it's now a 4-0 lead for the Spartans. Central Square will take a timeout with 5:06 remaining here in the first quarter. Evan DeBurgess was unassisted on that goal, and now ESM leads the Redhawks 4-0. You are watching it within association with ESM Athletics. You are watching New York Section 3 Boys Lacrosse, presented to you by Spartan News.
What's that? Yeah.
5:06 remaining here in the first quarter, and Central Square gets no. It's going to be an ESM face-off win off the face-off. Tedesco's at the face-off X for the Spartans. He gets tripped up and pummeled and is tripped on the ground. So it's going to be a man up for the Spartans, their first of the day. They lead 4-0 with 4:57 remaining here in the first quarter. So the Burgess will take it at the 40-yard line. Shoves it off to Palem around the 40.
Okay, I was on the other line with Nick.
Caruana comes in. So Palem dumps it off the marker to around the 20. Goes to Jones behind the cage. Who goes to Welch behind the cage. Dumps it off to Burgess at around the 10-yard line. Goes up to Caruana at the 25. Back to Palem at around the 30. Back to Marcourt, who goes back to Jones, Jones finds to Burgess, looking for the feed inside. Shot retained by, off the deflection. Marker gets the rebound. His shot is wide right, so Burgess will take it on the hustle play. 4:17 remaining here in the first quarter. So Burgess dumps it off to Caruana around the 20. He finds Palem at the 40. Palem's going to drive. Trying to get around his defender. Can't. Dumps it off the marker. Marker's shot is wide right again. And Jones into Burgess were back there for the Spartans. To Burgess. He dumps it off to Caruana and then finds Palem at around the 35-yard line. Palem trying to drive on Davis once again. Palem shot low and right. Jones is back there once again for the Spartans. So ESM still retaining possession. Jones trying to get around his defender. Can't. Backs off. Finds Palem around the 30-yard line, who finds Welch at the 25. Welch trying to backs off his defender. Finds DeBurgess. DeBurgess driving. Trying to get around his defender. And he does. He notches his second goal of the game. And the Spartans now lead 5-0 on Central Square. New face-off personnel for the Spartans and the Redhawks. John Corsi for the Spartans and Elijah Post for the Redhawks. It's going to be a face-off violation on the Redhawks. Of course, he takes it around the 50, and he'll dump it off to Jones at the 30-yard line. Jones finds Palem behind the cage. Palem trying to drive on his defender. Backs off. Actually doesn't. Goes low. Saved by the Redhawks. They'll stay with the Spartans. So Johnson takes it around the 25-yard line. Dumps it off to Jones behind the cage. Jones trying to get around his man. Screen set by Welch. Looks for the feed inside. Gets inside. Shot scored by Logan Welch. He gets it. And Ryan Lolo, number 26, got pounded on the play, but it ends up being a Spartan goal. ESM now leads Central Square 6-0 with 2:20 remaining here in the first quarter. Logan Tedesco goes back to the face-off X for the Spartans, and Matthew Davis returns at the face-off X for the Redhawks. So a face-off violation on the Spartans. Central Square looking for their first goal of the game. Davis has possession around the 30, guarded by Tedesco. He dumps it off by Myers. Myers backed off, guarded by Nielsen. Dumps it off to Shaughnessy behind the cage. Goes back to Myers. Finds post bobbled the pass. Recovers the pass. Defended by Abreu. Finds Myers in the middle of the paint. Gets behind. Oh, ball lost, and it's recovered by the Spartans. So James gets it. Heads up to Callahan. Callahan on the ride. Clears the possession cleanly. He'll dump it off to Jones. Jones trying to get around his defender. Can! And it's now 7-0 ESM with 1:15 remaining here in the first quarter. But there is a flag on the field. So off the penalty, ESM takes possession. They will not have to go to the face-off X on the penalty. So Logan Welch takes it behind the cage. He dumps it off to Caruana, who goes back to the Burgess, who finds Palin at around the 35-yard line. Dumps it off to Jones. Palin goes back to Jones, trying to find Caruana. Bounces off a Central Square defender, recovered by Caruana. Caruana dumps it off to DeBurgess. DeBurgess shot, bounced off the post. Ball still up in the air. Recovered by Logan Welch. Palin shot, deflected by a Central Square defender. Palin dumps it off to DeBurgess. DeBurgess is going to load up and shoot, and it's going to be wide right. Welch takes it behind the cage for the Spartans. He'll dump it off to Caruana at around the 5-yard line. Finds DeBurgess at around the 25. Finds Palin at the 30. Jones at around the 25. Dumps it off to Palin. Palin's shot is wide left. Possession stays with the Spartans. 20.1 remaining here in the first quarter. ESM leads Central Square 7-0. DeBurgess finds Jones. Pass bobbled. Penalty over for the Redhawks, and just like that, off the penalty, as strength is regained by the Redhawks. Eric Markert finds a ball in the back of the net for the Spartans, and it's now 8-0 ESM. But another penalty is on the play, so I think so it's going to be another penalty by Central Square, and I think that will do it for the first quarter of play. And after one period of play, ESM leads Central Square 8-0. In association with ESM Athletics, you are watching a New York Section 3 boys lacrosse contest presented to you by Spartan Nips.
What's up? I am not sure. Like, do you mean like Every time the ball's like out of bounds and like stoppage of play. I don't think so.
It's not horrendous, is it?
Huh?
It's not bad, is it?
What?
You hear anything, Tim?
No, I got two things.
They do that all the
What's
time.
that? About the clock stopping. Every time?
For the beginning of the second quarter, ESM back on another man-out penalty, so they don't have to go back to the face-off X and takes possession for the second quarter. So Palum dumps it off the marker. Finds Jones, dumps it off to the Burgess behind the cage. Dumps it off to Palum at around the 30-yard line, goes back to marker. Jones dumps it off to Palum. Palum to DeBurgess. DeBurgess to Caruana in the inside feed by Caruana. The Welch is off the mark, and a huge save right there, and a huge stop right there for the Redhawks. That pass is underthrown, and it's going to be a Redhawk turnover. ESM takes possession. They are still on the man up with 11:05 remaining here in the second quarter. Jones feed it inside to Welch, no good. Jones picks it up again, tries to go low, can't. Saved by Waskovitz. He'll try to take it, controls it, he'll run up this time at around the 30-yard line. Dump off pass to Myers. Myers gets by the ride of the Spartans, and they clear the ball. Myers upfield, shot wide. So it'll be a dump off pass. Oh. Shot by number 8. Watrous is no good. He claiming to the rest that he was pushed on the shot by DeBurgess, but still Redhawk ball. Johnson dumps it off. Actually still has possession. He'll dump it off to Davis. Davis finds Myers at around the 35-yard line. Bobbled pass. Ball still on the ground. Recovered by, not recovered, now recovered by Davis. Davis controlling the tempo right now, trying to settle down his offense. Watrous. Shot. No good. Goes low. Redhawks retain possession. Wings. Takes it in the end zone for the Redhawks. Myers at the 30. Gets around Caruana. Stuffed. Shot low. Flag on the play. And it looks like the Redhawks will go on a man-up penalty. So Shaughnessy takes it behind the cage for the Redhawks. Whistle blown. It looks like a timeout taken by the Spartans with 9:30 remaining here in the second quarter. ESM leads Central Square 8-0. In association with ESM Athletics, you're watching New York Section 3 Boys Lacrosse, presented to you by Spartan News. Welcome back to Spartan Stadium. So the Redhawks will go on a man-up penalty. They trail 8-0 with 9:30 remaining here. So Shaughnessy will take it behind the cage. He'll dump it off to Myers at around the 10. Finds well held. Davis dumps it off. And Shaughnessy will get the ground ball behind the cage. He dumps it off to Myers, defended by the Spartans. Myers trying to get around a man. Central Squares looking for their first points of the day. Davis defended by Jones. Added pressure by Callahan. And that's the first goal of the day for the Redhawks. Goal scored by number 8, Ryan Watrous. The Redhawks cash in on the man up and get their first points of the day. They now trail the Spartans 8-1. The Burgess back at the face-off X for the Spartans. He goes up against Davis. Another face-off win for the Burgess. So he weaves it through a few defenders to settle down the Spartan offense. Spartans trying to get this lead back to 8. They lead by 7 with 8:38 remaining here in the second quarter. Caruana takes the ball behind the cage, goes back to the Burgess. The Burgess spin move on his defender. Davis gets the ball, knocks the ball out momentarily. De Burgess recovers. He dumps it off to Palem, and Palem goes to marker. De Burgess has it at around the 20-yard line. Goes up to around the 30. De Burgess around the midfield, guarded by Davis. Gets around Davis. Backs off. Dumps it off to Palem. So Palem at around the 40-yard line. Palem from the 40-yard line, driving on his defender. Can't get around, dumps it off to De Burgess. De Burgess, shot is high. ESM retains possession, so Jones will take it around from the end zone. Jones gets around his defender, feet inside the Welch, and it is good. Logan Welch notches another goal on the day for himself. ESM goes back up 8. They lead Central Square 9-1 with 7:10 remaining here in the second quarter. Caleb Tedesco now back at the face-off X for the Spartans. And Tedesco wins a face-off. We'll dump it off to Palem. Palem at around the 15-yard line. Will drive on his defender. Can't. Backs off. Ooh. Unloads a shot from around the 20-yard line. And he gets it to go. And now the Spartans lead Central Square 10-1. So Tedesco goes back for another round at the face-off X. 6:49 remaining here in the second quarter. Ball still on the ground. Ground ball recovered by Abreu. Abreu, defended by 2 guys, loses the ball. Ball still up in the air. Ball out of bounds. It's going to be ESM possession, and it'll be a Central Square turnover. So, Abreu, he'll take it from midfield. Abreu from the 30, finds Tedesco at around the 35-yard line, goes to Abreu at around the 30. Abreu finds Jones at around the 10-yard line. Jones trying to get around a few defenders, can't. Looking for the pass inside. Can't find that. He'll go back to Palin behind the cage. Palin. Loses the ball. Ball still on the ground. Ball on the ground recovered by Tedesco. Tedesco loses that one. With nobody around it. He'll recover and he'll settle down the Spartan offense. Tedesco dumps it off to Jones at around the 5-yard line. Jones driving around his man. Backs off. Dumps it off to Abreu. Abreu goes back to him. Abreu. And Palin gets it around the 35-yard line. Palin shrugs off one defender, loads up, and is good. Jackson Palin notches another goal on the day, and the Spartans' lead is now double digits. They lead Central Square 11-1 with 5:14 remaining here in the first half. John Corsi heads back to the face-off X for the second time for the Spartans. Face-off won by Davis. Ball on the ground still. Defended, swarmed by 3 ESM defenders. Recovered by Zach Johnson. Johnson gets it past the 50. He'll dump it off to Palin at around the 30. Lillo dumps it off to Corsi, dumps it off to Jones, finds Welch behind the cage. Welch was trying for the pass to Lillo, but finally get it. Lillo at around the 25-yard line goes back to Palin at the 35. Dumps it off to Lillo. Lillo loses possession but recovers quickly. Lillo driving on Davis, trying to get around. Ball loose, ball on the ground. Ball recovered by Welch. Welch dumps it off to Johnson at around the 25-yard line. Johnson driving. His shot is wide right, but Welch is back there for the Spartans to recover possession. 4:09 remaining here in the first half. Welch dumps it off to Jones. Jones dumps it off to Corsi. Finds Johnson at the top of the cage, pass high. Johnson recovers it. So Johnson's going to drive, shot, blocked, sticked, blocked, recovered by Central Square momentarily. Ball still on the ground, recovered by Palin. Palin settles down the offense. Palin dumps it off to Johnson at around the 35-yard line. Ball loose, still on the ground, recovered by the Redhawks, the ESM turnover. Whistle blown, flag blown, and it looks like the Redhawks will go on a man up. So Davis will take it around the 45-yard line. Ball back behind the cage. Shaughnessy recovers. He dumps it off to Myers at around the 5-yard line. Finds Wahel, who goes to Davis at the 30. Shaughnessy behind the cage, defended by Tamalti. Ball's still loose on the ground. It's going to be a Redhawks turnover. ESM gets possession, so Tedesco will take it around the 40. Palem settles down the offense. Allows Markert to come on the field. He'll slide it over to Markert at around the 45-yard line. Markert jumps it off to Caruana. Finds Jones, so back to full strength is the Spartans. 2:14 remaining here in the first half. Jones behind the cage. Drives on his man, trying to get around. Can't. Backs off. Find Caruana. Caruana's going to load up. His shot is high. Palem's back there for the Spartans. Palem backs off. So Welch will get it at the 30. He dumps it off to Tedesco at around the 20-yard line. Tedesco driving on his man, backs off. He'll dish it off to Welch at around the 25-yard line. Welch goes to Jones behind the cage. Jones driving, can't, backs off, dumps it off to Welch. Welch finds Caruana at around the 30-yard line. Finds Jones at Jones. He takes it around the 10-yard line, goes behind the cage. He dumps it off the marker. Marker, Tedesco. Tedesco's going to load up. He's got a goal. And it is now 12-1. Spartans with 1:09 remaining here in the first half. Corsi goes back to the face-off X for the Spartans. Spartans lead 12-1 on Central Square. Abreu controls the possession for the Spartans, so they'll bring it up. They got about a minute remaining here in the first half. Jones backs off on his man, trying to get around. Can't. Backs off. Pass high, intended for Welch, and it's going to be an ESM turnover. 48.1 seconds remain here in the first half. So the Redhawks will try to get it past the ESM ride, and we'll try an attempt at a clear. It'll be a Central Square turnover on the attempted clear. So Abreu, he dumps it off to Jones. Jones driving. Tempting the Corsi, no good. Dumps it off to Abreu. Abreu's going to load up. Saved by Waskowicz. He's going to dump it off. Now another attempt cleared. And that's going to do it here. After one half of play, ESM leads Central Square 12-1. In association with ESM Athletics, you are watching New York Section 3 Boys Lacrosse, presented to you by Spartan News. Welcome back to Spartan Stadium for the beginning of the second half. ESM leads Central Square 12-1. A hot start for the Spartans. They are currently on a 12-1 run through 2 quarters of play. They've started hard. They've started hot, and they haven't put, and their foot hasn't left the gas pedal. So DeBurgess will start the second half at the face-off X for the Spartans. Same will Davis for the Redhawks. New personnel in the goal for the Spartans. Number 21, Jacob Wheaton. Another face-off win for DeBurgess. Dumps it off the pay limit around the 30-yard line. Dumps it off to Welch. We'll go to Jones behind the cage. Finds Caruana. Caruana's shot is good. And just like that, the Spartans strike quick and early here in the second half. And they lead 13-1. Caleb Tedesco goes to the face-off X for the Spartans now. Davis recovers, surrounded by defenders. Ball loose. Ball still on the ground, recovered by Central Square. Shaughnessy. Ball loose on the ground, recovered by number 17. Central Square with possession around the 35-yard line. Davis driving on Abreu. His shot is high. Central Square keeps it in play. It's recovered by number 12, Gordon Gallery. Gallery gets swarmed. Ball still on the ground. Wheaton gets the ball. He'll move it up the field. Tedesco takes it around the 30-yard line. Tedesco gets it past midfield, dumps it off to Palum. Abreu gets it at the 20, dumps it off to Welch, dumps it off to Jones. Palum gets it at the 30-yard line. He finds Abreu at around the 30. Abreu, he'll drive on his man. Few spin moves. Shot, wide right. Jones behind the cage for the Spartans. We now officially have running clock. So Jones takes it behind the cage. Palum around the 25-yard line. Finds Abreu at the at 30. Tedesco from the 35-yard line, driving on Davis. Backs off of Davis, finds Abreu at the 20-yard line. Spin move by Abreu. Shot. Good! And the Spartans now extend their lead 14-1. Dylan Abreu on the goal for the Spartans. 9:27 remaining here in the third quarter. John Corsi now at the face-off X for the Spartans. Davis wins the face-off for the Redhawks. Up in transition, shoots, and is good. Central Square notches their second goal of the day. Davis gets a goal. ESM still leads 12-2. 14-2. They lead by 12. Corsi loses another face-off to Davis. Davis back in transition. Gets surrounded. Shot low. On the hustle play is number 5, Cameron Johnson. So, Redhawks retain possession. Clock is at 8:27. Defense of a new personnel change for the Spartans. They bring in 3 off the bench. Davis, 25-yard line. Pass to Johnson, low, loose. Callahan trying to get in. Ball still on the ground. It's going to be out of bounds. It's going to be ESM ball. Jones. Shot way off the mark. Or actually, pass way off the mark, intended for Jackson Palum past midfield. It's going to be an ESM turnover, and Central Square gets possession. Central Square from the 30-yard line. Wewell dumps it off to Davis. Davis finds Johnson. Johnson goes back to Davis. Ball loose. Ball still on the ground. Davis will regain this ground ball for the Redhawks. Around the 40-yard line. Defended by Jones. Ball loose on the ground. Picked up by Jones. Jones finds Palem behind the midfield mark. Palem at the 20-yard line. In transition. Tries to shoot. Finds Welch. Finds Jones. Jones goes high. Fakes high. Then goes low. And it's another ESM goal. They lead 15-2. Jones was assisted on the play by number 17, Logan Welch. And the lead is now it's now a 13-goal lead for the Spartans. The Burgess back at the face-off X for the Spartans. Ball controlled by number 9, Dylan Abreu. Abreu dumps it off the Palem at around the 30-yard line. Palem behind the cage, trying to drive, finds around. Dumps off in the middle of the Welch. His shot is good. He notches another goal in the day for himself. Logan Welch was assisted by Jackson Palem on the play. It is now a 14-goal lead for the Spartans. They lead Central Square 16-2 with 5:07 remaining here in the third quarter. Burgess back at the face-off X, going up against post. Ball still on the ground. Ball up in the air. Ground ball recovered by Abreu. Abreu finds Palem at around the 25-yard line. Palem goes behind to Jones. Goes to Abreu. Abreu goes to Abreu. Abreu goes to Corsi. Corsi, defended by post, goes back to Palem behind the cage, who goes to Jones behind the cage. Abreu goes back to Abreu at the top of the key. Abreu driving, trying to get around his defender, can't. Backs off, still driving. Shot low, saved by Waskowicz. And now Central Square will try to get it past the ESM right in an attempt to clear. Easy clear. Myers takes it past midfield for the Redhawks. They trail by 14 with 3:32 remaining here in the third quarter. Myers, defended by O'Donnell. Gets by O'Donnell. Now is defended by Jones and Callahan. Ball loose. Ball still loose. Ground ball recovered by Central Square momentarily. Ball still on the ground. Recovered by Gallery. Gallery loses it. Jones trying to get it. Recovered by number 23 for the Redhawks. Whistle blown. It's going to be ESM ball on the Central Square turnover. Of course, he brings it past midfield for the Spartans. Jones goes behind to Marker. Welch behind the cage. Welch dumps it off to Abreu at around the 40-yard line. Of course, he gets it at the 40. Of course, he dumps it off to Abreu. Abreu finds Welch behind the cage, goes to Markert behind the cage. Jones gets it at the 20-yard line, goes back to Corsi at around the 35-yard line. Corsi driving. Shot saved by Wiskowicz. And now number 8, Watrous will bring it up for the Redhawks. Trying to get by his defenders. Can't. Ball loose on the ground. Recovered by Central Square. 17. Trying to load up. Finally does. Gets it by Wheaton. Flag on the play. Goal scored by number 17, Evan Weewill. 4. The Redhawks. But a flag is down on the play. Minute 25 remaining here in the third quarter. Tedesco goes to the face-off X for the Spartans. He's won a few today. Tedesco loses this one to Davis. Davis in transition. Dumps it off. Ball loose. Controlled by Wheaton. Wheaton heads it up to Jones. Jones trying to get past midfield. Defended by Davis, and he does. Turnover by the Spartans now. Central Square controls possession. Ball loose, ball on the ground. Shaughnessy. It's going to be ESM ball on the penalty. So Jones gets it at the 40. 7 seconds left. Finds Abreu. Abreu controls possession. And after 3 quarters of play, the Spartans lead the Redhawks 16-3. In association with ESM Athletics, you are watching a Section 3 Boys Lacrosse game presented to you by Spartan News. Welcome back to Spartan Stadium. ESM leads Central Square 16-3. Beginning of the fourth quarter, ESM starts out with possession with a running clock. So DeBurgess takes it around the 45-yard line. Dumps it off to Johnson. He goes back to DeBurgess. Johnson gets it at the 35-yard line. Trying to find Lillo, can't. Dumps it back to DeBurgess. DeBurgess goes back to Johnson. Johnson. He'll end up driving on his man. Can't. Spin move. Tries to feed inside to Lillo. Can't. Turnover by the Spartans. Recovered by the Redhawks. Ball still on the ground. Ball lost by the Redhawks. Recovered by the Redhawks. Number 24 easily gets past the ride from the Spartans. So Myers takes it at the 30, dumps it behind the cage. Drive, Shaughnessy shot, left. Shaughnessy dumps it off. Post takes it at the 20-yard line. Myers, drive, shot, off the post. Ball still on the ground. Recovered by the Redhawks. Ball on the ground now. Turnover by Central Square. Lillo in transition. Trying to get past the ride. Loses the ball. Marker recovers. Palem gets it near midfield. 9:47 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Marker. Actually, Palem drives on his defender. Finds Abreu inside. Shot. No good. Bounces left of the cage. So Palem and the Spartans retake possession. Palem dumps it off the marker. Passes wide. It's going to be an ESM turnover recovered by Central Square. Central Square in transition. Feed inside to Shaughnessy. The pass to Shaughnessy is low. He can't recover. Penalty on the Spartans. So Shaughnessy takes it in the end zone for the Redhawks. Tripped up. Shot high. Watros. His shot was high. Got tripped up on the play. Post. At the 20-yard line, defended by Lillo. Lillo backs him off. Watros gets it at around the 35-yard line. Defended by Nielsen. Gets a few spin moves on Nielsen. He rips. His shot is wide left. Possession stays with the Redhawks. Turnover by the Redhawks. Post. The pass the post bounced off of his stick. Ball on the ground still, actually. Recovered by the Spartans by Ryan Lillo. Lillo has to get by midfield. Does. Pummeled by Watros. Ball still on the ground. Recovered by Johnson momentarily. Whistle blown. And it looks like we'll get a Central Square timeout. ESM possession out of the timeout. Number 5. So DeBurgess takes it around midfield. DeBurgess gives it to Tedesco around the 35-yard line. Dumps it off to Corsi. Corsi at around the 35-yard line goes back to DeBurgess. Ball on the ground. Recovered by DeBurgess. DeBurgess dumps it off to Corsi in the middle. Corsi can't get it. Would have been an open shot. Recovered by Abreu. Dumps it off to Abreu. Abreu goes to DeBurgess. DeBurgess makes a man miss. Feed inside to Tedesco is no good. Recovered by Central Square. Ball still on the ground, actually. Redhawks control possession. Upfield goes Central Square. Gets it past midfield. Number 24 in transition. Dumps it off to Myers. He dumps it off to Davis. Davis goes to number 16 behind the cage. Goes to number 7. Harmer driving on O'Donnell. O'Donnell backs him off. He'll dump it off to number 21. Dumps it off to Myers. Myers' shot is good. He gets behind. Goes low on Wheaton and gets it behind him. It is now a 16-4 lead for the Spartans. So Jackson Palem will go to the face-off X for the Spartans, something new. Face-off violation by Palem. And it's going to be Central Square ball. So Davis takes it at the 45. Davis drives, backs, dishes off, loose pass. 16 recovers for Central Square. Watrous. Shot low. Gives it off to 7. Shaughnessy. Dumps it off to 16. Shaughnessy behind the cage. Watrous trying to get through a few defenders. Defended by Palem. Palem backs it off. Tries to shovel the pass to Davis. Davis recovers it. 3:32 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Ball still loose. Palem, good defense. Whistle blown. Watrous dumps it off to 12. 12 will dump it off to Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy dumps it off to Watrous. Watrous at the 35-yard line. Looking for the feed inside. Can't get it. Drives. Bounces off of Wheaton's stick. And it's going to be out of bounds on the Spartans. 2:56 remaining. So number 12 gets it around the 30-yard line. He's going to drive. Dumps it off to Davis. Davis inside. Shot low. Saved by Wheaton. Ball in the air. Covered by Davis. Davis trying to go low. That shot is saved by Wheaton off the small bloop. Wheaton behind the cage. Gives it to Palem at the 20-yard line. Palem trying to get through 2 defenders. Does. Weaves through Shaughnessy. And 7. Loses the ball in the process. Recovers. Controls the tempo. 2:19 remaining here in the fourth quarter. He dumps it off the marker. Marker goes to Johnson at around the 35-yard line. Marker. Spin move. Shot. Good by Zach Johnson. He goes low, and that extends the ESM lead. It is now 17-4. Now, Corsi at the face-off X for the Spartans. Davis wins the face-off on Corsi. In transition goes Central Square. He's going to load up the shoot. Does. Gets it behind Wheaton. And now it is a 17-5 game with 1:08 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Tedesco back at the face-off X for the Spartans. 32 seconds remain here in the fourth quarter. Tedesco. Ground ball still on the loose. $19 seconds remain here in the fourth quarter. Davis takes it out of bounds from the Redhawks. Davis dumps it off to 16 at around the 15-yard line. Impressive win for the Spartans yet again. They've won the last 6 meetings against Central Square. So, from your final score at Spartan Stadium, ESM 17, Central Square 5. In association with ESM Athletics, you are watching a Section 3 lacrosse contest presented to you by Spartan News. Thank you all for watching.